And get started. All right, good morning, everybody. I'd like to call this meeting of the Capital Program Committee to order. It is August 25th at a little after 10. Present here at the table are Richard Hussey, Peter Kaiser, myself, Jason Bridges as members. Rick Sears. Hello, Chief Murphy. Good morning.
Good morning.
And let's see, meetings being audio video recorded, may be displayed on YouTube. Anything you show on your screen may be displayed. Can you get a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Richard, any motion?
Aye.
Actually, oh yeah, we're split. So do we have members online?
No.
No participants. Okay, so all in favor, aye?
Aye.
All right, no opposed, carried unanimously. Public comment. As is typical at the Capital Program Committee, there's not many people come in and comment. We'll have your comments. Let's see.
They read them in the paper though.
Oh, do they? I'll have to pick up the paper. Potential approval of minutes. No minutes at this point. FI capital requests, not your discussion. So we've got fire department and Nantucket Public Schools on the agenda. We received word that Nantucket Public Schools is going to be rescheduled to a later date. So I'd like to jump right into fire department review. Again, welcoming Chief Murphy. But before I do so, I want to say congratulations, Chief, on your retirement. Well deserved. Enjoy it. Your last hurrah at Capcom.
That's fun.
Going out strong. We appreciate that for the department.
We did it last week on my birthday.
Floor is yours.
Thank you. So, not gonna miss the Huggy last week. I appreciate the liaison, stuff coming back. I do like that. I think it's important to have people who you have a little more time with and spend time with to explain everything going on. So that I appreciate. So going back, let's talk about what we've accomplished over the past 3 years. FY21, we had the SCBA program that continued for the next 3 years. This year, we're not asking for money for SCBA's because I think we're at a point right now where we've reached our proper number within the department for new air tax, and that was a big safety issue and a program that's greatly appreciated by me. In 21, we also had a new engine 7. We just took delivery of that. That was a custom-made truck on a Freightliner chassis, so a commercial kind of chassis. That was delivered this past spring, late winter. That worked downtown at the Veranda House Fire, and it was exemplary working there. That truck is a hybrid kind of truck. We had $450,000 appropriated for that. The $50,000 remaining from the truck is being used to outfit that truck with hose and equipment. So that appropriation is correct. Also in 21, we had ALS for $100,000. That money has helped support one of my program success stories that I have later with the paramedics. Paramedicine has been on the ambulances here for over a year now. With 2 paramedics functioning, and I have another 4 in class that hopefully within the next 3 months or 4 months will have their paramedic and be offering that skill as well. So that's a huge upgrade with support.
That's not in this list. This is just the.
No, this is just,
Okay.
yeah, what I gave you is just a vehicle replacement schedule that I give you every year. It kind of gives you an idea where we're at and the useful. So trying to jump out of line here, that form I've given you is our apparatus and expected replacement schedule. Now they do change. So the purchase of the show and tell I brought out in the parking lot in engine 4, that wasn't scheduled for last fiscal year. We changed the scheduling that because we needed to replace engine 4, whereas engine 3 we bumped out to 25, and you can see that on the schedule because it doesn't need to be replaced yet. So even though the times that I put on the times estimated useful life, they can be adjusted as it comes along, dependent. So the frontline trucks that are engine 1 and engine 4, they're used a lot more and take a lot more wear and tear than the engine 2 and engine 3 will say, which are wildland interface trucks. They get a little less use. They'll last longer. So FY22, we did more money for ALS. That was last year. Still waiting for the cardiac monitors to be delivered that I ordered in January. So they promised me the middle of August, we're past that. but it's one of the, how we live right now with delivery of supplies. Engine 4 replacement was approved in last year. That truck's sitting out there. We had appropriated for 705. We have a little extra money on that because we bought that truck as a demo. So that piece of apparatus there was actually a show truck. So it's kind of like going to a dealership and buying it off the lot. In essence, they did a lot of work to it. It took a little bit longer time for them to get the work done, just because how busy the shop was, where we bought it from. But they repainted it. They put some equipment on. They took some equipment off that we didn't want. It was just been headers. But that truck, we just took delivery 2 weeks ago, registered last week, and we're waiting to get the radio installed and get it switched over to get in service and get some training done. I'm really appreciative of that. I welcome you to take, after we're done, go take a look at it because it is a very nice truck. For 23, for the current year we're in, projects that were approved last year, we have another money for ALS. That money is for outfitting the 4th truck where we're at. And just to give an idea, I spoke of that monitor, cardiac monitor. The cardiac monitors fully set up is somewhere around $35,000 to $40,000. So a large chunk of that is just in one piece of equipment. Ambulance 3 is currently waiting on the contract to come back from the dealer and the Lifeline. Ambulance prices have increased significantly. I just talked to the dealer yesterday and we had to do a little removal of some equipment that was asked to be on it because it didn't meet the appropriation. So we took in, got the appropriation, we got to a number that's the appropriation to replace this truck in this contract year, this fiscal year, and for $370,000. So future ambulances looking out forward are gonna have to be somewhere budgeted in the area of $425,000 to $450,000 per truck.
Do you need that extra equipment though eventually?
So what it is our ambulances are replaced every 8 years. So we have 4 ambulances, so that means every 2 years we're replacing an ambulance. As an ambulance comes in the front, it moves to the back. So by the time the 8 years comes, it's ready to be retired.
For the things that you cut to meet appropriation.
Oh, no.
Do you need that stuff at some
It
point?
was, no, it was
No,
okay. There
not
was different
essential.
things. Not, one was a different bumper. Another was, we're like, okay, we're trading in a truck. So how much are you gonna give us in this truck? So he gave us $10,000 for a trade-in. That brought the number down significantly. We were only $15,000 off, so the sales rep the other was really good and worked with us and made sure we got within the appropriation.
What's the lead time on delivery?
This one, we're fortunate because he had earmarked a ambulance in the queue for us. We didn't ask him to do that. He did it. So we probably will have delivery of that within, I would guess, somewhere 6 to 8 months. The problems with chassis and such that we all know about with the dealerships not having chips is affecting ambulances as well. So, but this was in the queue. It's a 22 or a 23, I can't remember, but it's fortunate there's one earmarked in the assembly line place and a chassis is assigned to that truck. So, the Asher equipment is the active shooter and hostile response. That is ballistic vests and ballistic helmets. That contract's been signed with Doughboy on the state bid and is being purchased and up for select board approval soon. Utility 5, which is the pickup truck for the station. The idea of the purpose for this was a utility body truck. The problem with purchasing right now is we can't find a truck even available as a 22. And the 23s have come out with pricing and they're not honoring the pricing on the 22s for the 23s. So I've worked with even Dave out to DPW and Police Services trying to see if he had any leads, and we've called several different places on state bid. It's difficult, so that's gonna have to continue. Hopefully they can get something to replace that truck. SCBA's. Like I said, this is the final year for that. Most likely I didn't put forward for this year. Those should be getting delivered about December. The final for that. The UTV is another appropriation from last year. That is a Polaris, full-size Polaris diesel with a skid unit in the back to be able to transport patients that is for events or places with remote access. That is a new piece of equipment. It's not a replacement piece of equipment. That contract is out with a state bid vendor, town contract. Waiting to get that back. The lead time delivery on that piece of equipment is anywhere from 12 to 18 months.
Where's that?
Wow.
That's not on there, it's a new piece of equipment.
Okay.
So it's, I only have the current stuff we have on there. Okay. So the UGV is a new piece of equipment.
That's in FY 24 coming up?
That's in this budget right now. It was approved last
Last
Oh,
year.
I'm saying,
year. So we're still in the current budget. The projects kind of give you an idea where we're at.
Chief, I want to back up just a quick second. One is, well, just one thing on the SCBA's.
Yep.
The interval, when does the interval to begin to replace those in stages begin again?
So what would have to happen is in the budget, wouldn't be for 24, most likely 25. We haven't got to the EIR phase yet of the budgeting, but money should be asked for in a small amount to take and start doing those replacements on a smaller scale, much rather different than the larger scale. So as I presented that project 3 or 4 years ago when we started, the idea was to get us through getting our packs replaced so that we can get it into a budgetary item.
So the operating,
Yeah,
okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep.
Oh, and just procedurally, I'd forgotten we're on Zoom and obviously Terry's not here, so, and I'm not very situated to be calling on people. No, I mean, Terry's not. Oh, can she see?
I'm not physically, but I'm here in spirit.
By ourselves before we talk, or are you picking us up by voice for the minutes?
I'm picking you up fine.
Okay, good, thank you.
Yeah.
Go ahead, sorry.
No problem. So another big project right now is getting worked through and finance directors helping with, and hopefully continue with, is the foam replacement. So part of the program was for $110,000 is appropriated for disposal of the current fluorine foam, PFAS, PFOA foam, and replacement with non-fluorine foam, no PFAS foam in that. The contract's going to the select board for approval as a statement price for the foam replacement. That number is around $70,000. The hiccup right now that's trying to be worked through is the disposal. I was able to put out, ask for bids for 3 different bids. I've got 2 back. They're very far apart. Now it's just a matter of getting through with the town contract and having the company be able to accept the terms the town has. And Brian's been working on that. Last year, we also had the 800 all our radios being replaced. That was a number that came through. We actually had a grant from FEMA, from AFG of $330,000 to pay for the majority of that grant with a 5% matching amount. So that number was significantly reduced from when we first asked. So that's kind of where we're at for this year. What have we done successfully? We have ALS. It was a 20-year project, a lot of support from a lot of different people to get going. And we're working forward with that. Like I said, we have 2 paramedics. Actually, we have 3. Ryan's on military leave right now, still going through training. So when he comes back, he'll be our 3rd medic, very experienced medic now. And then we have 4 in class as it stands. The 4 in classes are a job requirement medics. So we can put them through class. We have 2 brand new engines that we've taken delivery of in the past 6 months, thanks to your support and support of the community. The newest engine, like I said, sitting out front, will be in service hopefully within the next couple of weeks, 3 to 4 weeks. We have increased services with technical rescue. Part of that is through EIRs in the budget, an operating budget, and training, which goes to the request for this year and past years that hasn't gone through for further equipment. The replacement schedule is being updated. We talked about that. We've gotten FEMA grants for 2 for COVID, which were small amounts of money. Small, and I would say replacement of money that we expended during the pandemic for supplies that were reimbursed by the federal government. Our radio grant, we just recently, there's a grant being put forward for approval to the select board for over $36,000 for new turnout gear and training for all firefighters. That's another AFG FEMA grant. And there's also one still in the system that hasn't been acted on, and honestly, I don't have a lot of hope for it, but for a new ladder truck, which would be it's $1.5 million ask. The way the FEMA grants work is they can only award up to $1 million, so we'd be responsible for that 5% or everything over the federal appropriation of under $1 million. We talked about that prior to, it's not on here as a request, because there's no grant there. The ladder is scheduled for replacement in a couple of years. It's not quite that. Current year. So there's 3 requests. One is replacement of engine 1. Engine 1 is our older frontline piece. That is due for replacement in this year. $850,000 is the ask. The delivery on that time of this truck will not be as fast as the one that's sitting out front. And it is entirely possible that by the time that money is awarded and appropriated, that the $850 will be buying the truck. There is pricing from the salesperson that suggested that the truck should be, right now, it's around $800,000. But with the increase in pricing that is happening for all equipment right now and how fast it's going up, he suggested budgeting $850,000 just for the truck. If that's the case, the future appropriations and requests may come forward to outfit that truck with new equipment. Right now, the 850 is enough to buy that truck. That's how fast they're going.
Well, why not put it at 950 and cover it? So you don't have to come back or
That
a
was-
million or,
Yep, that was part, I'm more comfortable because I don't want to, 850 is gonna buy the truck. That's what we're knowing. We're looking at a year to a year and a half, maybe even 2. From the time of delivery, there's plenty of time to know exactly how much money needs to be spent or needs to be appropriated to outfit that truck.
They come in with a supplemental.
So it would be, yeah, in essence, another capital request to outfit the engine,
in FY 25.
or 25 or 26, yeah, depending on what.
And your point, enough time in between spending the 850 and knowing how much you're gonna have to
So it's like the fiscally responsible way to do it.
And
I just
yeah,
don't want you to have to come back and
No.
be stuck. And have to
it's
pull
the
stuff
right
out.
way, it's the right way to do it.
be tight on timing.
We could say $1 million for the fire truck and then have an over appropriation and. I don't think that's very fair. I think we know the truck's gonna cost at the most $850,000. We may have enough if the market settles to outfit it at a point in time too, but again, we're looking at, July of 23 before we sign a contract on the truck thereabouts. Delivery time is gonna be probably 18 months. By the time it's delivered, is $50,000 gonna be enough to outfit the truck, even if it stays at 800? So instead of having to come back and say, ask for more, it's probably easier just to stay where we're at, and then if they have to come back with a number that's appropriate to outfit the truck.
Yeah, and we may just note that this is the base, this is the base model as opposed
Yeah.
to fully accessorized, so it's, it's somewhere it's noted.
It feels to me like we're supposed to be putting whatever, $50,000 in FY 25 as an out year thing. And if it doesn't, if we don't need it at this time next year, we just take it out of the plant.
Next time, thank you, yes, so that we have a carryover, and then that would be actually, how would we handle that in Plum, do you think? Would be a supplemental, so it could track under the same project number, but coding wise, or would we do it as a separate request?
No,
Be the supplemental.
well,
under the
in
same
Plum
coding.
today, I'm just going to, in this capital software today, I'm just going to add $50,000 in FY 25.
When we go to implement that, when the request actually comes in, when there's a dollar number, are we gonna transition that to a separate request?
We don't
don't
need
have
to, because what we do is we actually, we'll clone these, right? So when we get the 850 approved at the town meeting, I'm gonna go in and click approved, and then I'm gonna clone it so that the line stays the same. It'll still say engine 124, fire 24001, but there'll be 50 grand in if that's the number.
And the,
25.
and the introduction will indicate it's the supplemental.
It's,
Okay,
oh. Yes, well, yeah, I'll change it. So, yeah, you have to change the project title.
Yeah, I mean, you know, a year from now, 2 years from now, it's
Yeah.
just nice to have a little more. That's
Yeah,
all.
that's fine. Yeah.
Okay, good. Okay, chief, go ahead, thanks.
Thank you. Just jump to the technical rescue equipment. This is the collapsed trailer, trench rescue trailer equipment, could be used for both. So again, this equipment is used in the case of if there is an issue where Robert B. Hour or the DPW have a failure of a trench that they're in, and they're trapped, there's a person trapped in the trench. And think about how many times you've been driving around and you've seen somebody with their head barely sticking out of the ground in a small hole. That's what this is for. When those fail, this equipment allows us to go in safely and rescue them. We have people trained, we don't have the equipment. Same respect of with all these houses that are being moved, this equipment can be used for that too. If, for God forbid, one of those houses collapsed while being put on the foundation and somebody was underneath it. Shoring equipment and equipment that is used to take and perform rescues in areas of trench and collapse. This number is carrying forward, and we talked the other day, Mr. President, whether that number is a valid number, and I believe it's a valid number. I know we carried it forward a couple times, but there'd be more than enough equipment to be purchased under that to provide services.
Questions on that for chief?
Just remind me of why it hasn't passed at least 2 years, or 3. Why did we decide as a group not to go forward with it?
I think there was actually a few different thought processes on it. I think at one point it was that types of services that may typically not be by one of the members who's no longer a Capcom member, outsourced, typically not utilized on a regular basis, but only periodically or very rarely would be outsourced. The other perspective on it was, what is the likelihood of the necessity of this type of equipment when it's primarily professional contractors with hoisting engineer licenses and scheme, the licensing scheme involved. And the protocols under the hoisting engineer regulations are in place. That was another one. And I frankly don't quite remember the third. I think it may have been, is there a training? The training required the interval to recertify if it's a certification related. And then part of that was also, is there some type of a monetary offset for, which was, quickly squelched, offset for this type of a service. Not for, I want to be really clear, not for people to use it who would need it to have it be used, but for it to be available on job sites because you want it on a job site when you need it. You don't want to have to wait. Obviously, it's still worthwhile. It's deemed to be purchased and appropriated, that it's worthwhile to get it to the job site, regardless of, when, within a reasonable period of time. Your typical response interval.
So that's kind of.
Does that jive with where you're?
I understand what you're saying, and here's a couple of responses to that. Part of this is setting up a technical rescue team. That is going to be something we have the people now that have attended rope training, confined space, trench rescue training, and high end. So rope, confined space, and trench. Those are the 3 big ones. We're seven to the rope. They're becoming certified. We have enough people to create a team. We're part of the Southeast Regional Technical Rescue Team, but that doesn't help us in the moment. So this equipment is meant for responding to an emergency. So the idea is that it's on a site, it's not on a site. It'd be no different than we wouldn't be deploying this to a site, say that Robert B. Hour is working on, or somebody to sit there, because that would be like taking a fire truck and putting it at somebody's house when they're cooking dinner. There could be an incident. We're ready for the incident, but we're not going to sit and wait just in case it happens. So we're developing this team. We have the players now in order to develop it. It's taken several years to even get there too. And this equipment is for emergency use. So we don't allow, and this may be a very bad analogy, but we don't allow people to borrow our tanker trucks to fill their swimming pools. You know, so this is kind of that same thing. We don't want to lend out equipment that's meant to be used in an emergency. So that when you get it back and you need it in an emergency, pieces and parts are missing or broken and you can't affect it.
Mhm.
So it's kind of to that same point. Is this important equipment? Yeah, it is. It is. And, you know, we don't need equipment until we need equipment. So that's where it comes down to. Hopefully this equipment is only ever used in drills and training. And we never have to. But there's always the chance that there's that one time that a professional organization and their workers are certified and they have everything they need and they have the right parts in the training. And it never happens. It's always, well, I tried to do it quick. I tried to get this done. I didn't follow the rules. And then all of a sudden tragedy happens. And that could be in Boston, when you saw last year, the people who were killed in the water main breaks who were in the trench, or it could be somebody who is taking and digging a swimming pool and they're down in it and it collapses. So there's several different areas that this is, and you know, accidents never happen when you expect them. You know, it's always because somebody rushed, didn't follow the steps, and that's what we always have to prepare for.
Okay.
Is it equipment that can be stored in our current?
So
Buildings?
the idea behind this
Good.
equipment is it's trailer.
Right.
It'd be inside a trailer, no different than we have a trailer for the UTV when it comes, it is gonna be inside, so it can be easily mobilized for events or for large incidents.
So trailer stored outside, but everything's inside of it,
Everything's
protected,
inside, take-
ready to just hook up and get where it needs to go.
And just out of curiosity, what size, how big is the trailer?
This one's probably a 20-foot trailer, 18-foot trailer, it's not very long.
The reason I asked is just, you know, mobility downtown during the summer and tight corners and things along those lines, smaller.
It's a small trailer.
Small. Other questions for Chief at this point on that? I have just a couple ones. Accessorized breathing, are there any accessories with a breathing apparatus for somebody trapped? I mean, you brought up the water one. I think that's a great example. Or that's just equipment that you have that you, I mean, I don't presume you, I don't know, what happens when you go to emergency and someone needs oxygen in the field, on the site, during a fire or in a trench?
So now we're compliant disciplines. So we have a paramedic who's also on the technical rescue team, who can take his gear from his technical rescue, safely access a patient with the equipment that's available to us. Shoring, walling off, making sure that technician is going in safely. Now they bring in all their ALS gear. Now they treat somebody, start an IV. They give them oxygen, they may intubate. They can give pain medications. You know, and they can do all that stuff as it comes forward. So everybody, back early spring, late winter, we had the gentleman who fell off the roof. Everybody's heard about it. Not whatever. That was a technical rescue. At a very small scale, but he was in a cellar hole 12, 15 feet down with no stairs. So we had to basically afford a technical rescue with a backboard and an extension ladder. And the ropes we had in order to get him out. But a paramedic was down in the hole with him, giving him pain medications for the injuries he sustained to make that transfer from the scene to the back of the ambulance and to med flight. Much more seamless. So that's a combining of projects and disciplines that greatly affords. So same thing, somebody in a trench, you get to him, you take and you know, affects your access to that patient and you treat when you're at that patient.
Okay, yeah, that's just good general helpful information. The training interval for, is this a certification training level training, or is it
So
a
the
little
technical
less
rescue,
contact hours, or?
so technical rescue is certification, that's part of the Southeast Regional. So once we get a team set here, individuals will go away and train either with Cape and Islands and with the Southeast Regional Technical Training. A lot of places like Barnstable or Plymouth County or Norfolk County have teams within departments that then go participate regionally. That's how you get the training and that's how you become proficient and stay proficient.
Okay, and then just a couple of quick comments. I would never really subscribe to the lend out rental department, fire department model. It's not just down where you can maybe under off hours use the machine to help out a neighbor, dig a hole or something. For me, I think the pivot is the personnel in place and partially that it is a self-contained trailer because as we know, the public safety auxiliary building has been discussed for years. And it's gonna, quickly fill up with uses or storage. And having this being self-contained, I think is important. So thank you. Any other quick?
The last one I had, there was only.
Oh,
I
wait,
just have
I'm
a
sorry,
question.
Chief, one sec.
Could you speak about the quote? For this,
The dollar number, yeah, the dollar number will be enough to carry forward with what we need for equipment. It is an older quote, yes, we did talk about that, but that number is still enough that we'll get the proper equipment for that department.
And I know the brochures are in the,
Yeah, they're older. I'm sure prices have gone up on that too, but we'll have to just take and tailor the request for the supplies to the appropriation.
So we had this in previously, like at 300, then 325, and this year it's 375, so.
right. And the other aspect of this is if the community is gonna act on this, we're gonna appropriate it. It's, likely only gonna get more expensive. That's the tale of the times. For the
Very
last
much so.
forever and a
Fire
day.
trucks and ambulances are doing that.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, thank you.
The last thing is a staff vehicle. It's a scheduled replacement of the pickup truck that's now being used by the deputy chief. This truck in operational wise, this will be up. But how I envision this coming forward was that the pickup truck wouldn't be traded in or cycled out. It would actually rotate down to the shift. So come July 1 of 23, we're adding lieutenants at the fire department. So we'll have two officers on, we'll have a captain and a lieutenant. If the captain, being the senior officer on the ship, has a vehicle to use, they could possibly be able to go and take and run fires as a command authority instead of being in the right seat of fireman. They could handle areas of positions of authority within a fire ground that normally is handled now by a chief. Better operational, better for development. Also, there's also the possibility, depending on the model of the fire chief coming in and how he wants to work it, they could take and use that as a vehicle that goes out and a full step engine goes. I don't want to speak for the operationally how it's going to go forward, but with this truck being as a line truck, a response vehicle for an officer would save a lot of wear and tear on engines and allow more work to be done by the ships. Whereas now they have an old pickup truck that I can't replace because I don't have one. That's going to be a utility body, different use compared to how this pickup truck can be used. It would also afford that a proper administrative vehicle can be outfitted. The pickup truck, even though some departments do use pickup trucks for battalion chiefs and the like, it's not really a good staff car. You know, the way my car is set up in the back, I have a command center, I have a radio there, I have boards that slide out that I can keep track of the incident. The grease pencil, the equipment's there. With the pickup truck, this year we put a slide on it, but still it's not operational. It's difficult to use on a fire. So the newer one would take that and be more of a proper administrative car for the department.
Questions, comments? All right, my only comment on that is actually about the lieutenants. I think, the idea that having been down at the Veranda House at the time of the fire shortly afterwards, still involved, is having that level of command authority in place is important, not only in those types of situations, but God forbid we have one there and one somewhere else. We have a, geographically separate fires, and to be able to have personnel in place, fully trained and relevant in that regard, I think is a huge benefit for the community. Okay, Chief, what do you got for us other than those?
The only thing I got is out years going forward. You have the replacement schedules. Sconset is still in there as a placeholder. I was hoping we could find a piece of land to kind of move forward on a new station for there at some point in time, but that's going to keep getting bumped until that's, resolutions of where to put a new station is now. So, if there's any other questions, I'd be happy to answer as well, but. That's basically where-
Any questions or comments for chief at this time?
On the Wisconsin Fire Station?
That or otherwise, I think that was his route. Other than questions. Okay, I actually have a couple. Rick, these may be more programmatic with respect to, your internal processing, but chief, you provided, which you do each year, the vehicle schedule. And there's 11 items that do not show up as being replaced within the FY 32 cycle in our 10-year SIP. So, and some of those I know are 2007, 2010 vehicles, fire alarm truck, so on and so forth. Where do you see these fitting into the 10-year SIP? Well, we have you here in your
Fire alarm
experience.
truck is, that's a piece of equipment right now that we're just holding in. I don't see that for those. Okay. That can go away when it's next, its useful life, meaning it no longer operates.
So these are really kind of attrition items on the bottom.
The Cape car is one that we picked up from the sheriff's office not too long ago. And also that's another point in time that last year we had put in, and I think I put in for this year too, and we withdrew it for a training officer, EMS officer's car. The sheriff's department's giving us a surplus car from that. So it's an expenditure that we're not going for. That's the same thing, that Cape car that we have over there that people use for training, saving us money on rental cars. And, as it is right now, I think that's something that could be similar to what I'm proposing for the pickup from cycling through to line use from administrative use. When one of the fire prevention cars or one of the admin cars come to that same cycle, one of those vehicles could be cycled over, and it's used to stand it over. So.
And are the other items, the other 11 items
Trailers.
similar?
Trailers, right? So there's just no real useful life to quote.
Not that I have, I can tell you.
Yeah.
And I can tell you a fire truck's gonna last on average, but these trailers,
Some are made
as
better than
long as we keep
others.
tires on them and keep the, the
Grease fittings
Yeah,
filled
they're
up.
good.
Yeah.
Yep.
The two that came to, that I was particularly interested in are the generator trailers, 1 and 2. So generators typically have a useful life interval. Are those things that they're light duty, so they're not something you're necessarily working into a replacement schedule,
So
or?
those were taken and gotten through surplus, surplus. Years ago, we have them in inventory. We invested some money in a radiator and some work on them. They're basically there for emergency management, that if we need it. We had one sitting out in Sconset for a period of time because the generator has failed out there. So in case we needed to wire it up, the system, the power Sconset station last winter, it's actually still sitting there and ready, but I don't see a replacement schedule for that.
Yeah, and I mean, look, there's generators that are out there for 50, 60 years, as long as they're in the maintenance schedule and being run. So I was just curious.
Yep.
I saw in there.
You might replace a generator and not replace a trailer and vice versa. So there
Yeah,
might be
these are-
different line items. that
It's
could-
actually, those generators actually came off the launch pad at NASA down in Florida. So, a little history to them, so they're little trailers self-contained in themselves. And they're substantial.
Super, thanks. And I do appreciate just, I think, in closing your comment on the liaisons. With COVID, we discontinued that. I think personally, I think I could speak for the group. We find it terribly important and really helpful to have somebody go out, see what's going on in the different departments, understand how this piece of equipment relates, or that piece of equipment, the particular request relates to the department's duties, and then be able to inform us all later on in our process when we're sitting down to do a final recommendation. So I appreciate your feedback on that. Absolutely. All right. Last questions for Chief Murphy. All right.
Thank you for your support.
Thank you for coming in. We appreciate it.
Thank you much.
Good luck in your next chapter.
Whatever that may be.
Whatever.
Say
it
see
may
you
be.
next year, but
Happy retirement, chief.
Carrie.
Chief, are we supposed to look at that truck out there? next?
Yeah, you guys want to take
Wanna take a break?
a 5-minute, no discussing any topics to avoid issues with open meeting law?
And if I leave, we're out of form, right? So I need to stay.
I was hoping we could just do our Rory's back.
Sure.
Nice relief in there.
Oh, come on. I'll get you closer to that. Explore.
All right, so we are back. My brief break.
I could try it if you could. Pull the link in.
That's beautiful.
Here,
Yeah,
there,
yeah,
there,
let me-
there, there.
What are you
Yeah.
more familiar with? Mac or?
It doesn't matter. Just see if I can do what you do.
It's nice to like get a peek inside.
Yeah,
too, like
especially a
inside
brand new
the-
one, you
Well,
know,
not just like the tank compartment, the pressure
Yeah.
compartment.
see
Let's
that
see what the plumbing is.
work of engineering mastery. Surveys.
All right, so that. I think
Maybe
we'll-
change the password.
Can you
I
actually
still don't have
do
any-
worries on an iPad?
Got this.
Yeah,
You can't?
yeah, if you log in through a browser. Actually was doing that for a while. but-
Departments.
So, next step on our agenda is Rory's, and I just figured,
Got it.
hop right on those, get them out of the way. And we
So-
have an opportunity to discuss things.
How do you usually do? You go to search, put in fire, and then
Yeah,
That's pretty much what I.
and then I
thought, but-
sort by code and
Sort by code.
so the only thing. Rick, I just want to get some clarification on is the rescue trailer. I don't see it in my group.
Rescue equipment,
Rescue equipment.
I've got that.
Oh, right, because it's a
everything else
21.
is completed.
Yeah, so just the column we want to look at is the far right that says CRF status and capital committee review. Those are the ones we needed.
Right.
Gotcha.
This is a first for me too. I've never seen how you got, what your guys
Mhm.
view.
Oh, okay.
So that's why I'm looking over your shoulder.
You'll need rescue equipment first. That's the more,
Yeah, I know,
I think, more complex one
no, back into.
over the years.
So rescue equipment, I mean, we do this however you want. I mean, I just figured I was gonna go to it and start doing mine, and
Okay.
if people had questions or comments, we could get caught
Awesome.
up in that.
There's really no useful life estimate on this, right? I mean, until it's outdated or they come up with better equipment or techniques, but I mean,
Yeah,
once it gets there. In its trailer, out of the weather. It should last indefinitely, which. Makes you feel good about spending it.
yeah, I mean, for me, part of this is not only the personnel. Coming online more, as the chief said, but also, I mean, we. Anecdotally. A lot more move demos.
Oh, yeah, then
Um,
a house moves is
Yeah, and the house move
probably
is,
doubled in the last 18 months.
yeah, and the move part of it is really the component, so. I gotta refamiliarize myself with the ranking of
Yeah.
relative importance categories and so.
Hey, do we do like a refreshed, everyone put in your, you do
Remember,
that every year?
remember, if you put anything for major, you have to put 100.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, now I remember.
It will be nice when we can add a funding aspect to this. And it's not gonna be this budget season, but, for instance, it could elevate something where it's a grant or a gift,
Right.
Oh, yeah.
that would be a
Well,
high
So
priority.
now that, I mean, that's in the actual. CRF, the capital request. You just have
Yeah.
to, you have to go to.
We've
the
gotta
page that says funding.
connect it to
But be
the
able to
Rory.
have a field in the actual Rory that
Right.
reflects how important it is that we might not be paying for 95%
Right,
for
well,
an AIF.
Yeah, it's the same thing for like the legally required ones, right? It doesn't actually tell you when you go to your role.
Yeah,
That it's legally required, so. So what we've been doing in town admin, is we just put 100 down, the whole thing.
I think, under tradition, this actually might get a bump up because it's been here for a few
Yeah.
years.
Part of our tradition.
But like, you said with the EMT vehicle exchange, so.
You consider engines as infrastructure?
I mean, I wouldn't traditionally, but I can see why if we get some,
I could see it both ways,
you know.
but we have. That's
Some-
kind of stuff I want to know. how
Yeah,
all-
sometimes I do like a 25% because it helps save infrastructure and so it's kind of an indirect, but. I mean, it's a long-term
Rolling stock versus,
asset, you know, I
Bridge.
mean, yeah, it's. I do have a hard time putting it 0 for something like that because it feels like it's not giving it its due importance, right? If it helps maintain infrastructure, is it indirectly?
The strategic plan, I think, is also can be loosely used.
Again, yeah.
It doesn't need to be a giant plan, but an engine is part of the replacement
Yeah.
plan.
Yeah, I usually make slight leaps like that if there's an indirect correlation, you know.
well, and it correlates to the group category, which is resilience. So like with respect to infrastructure, it's allowing, you know, not this particular one in this particular regard, but something, equipment that allows us to maintain or allow the infrastructure to bounce back from use or some
Agreed.
type of a,
Probably not gonna get 100, but not gonna get to 0.
Yeah.
As opposed to the truck being classified as infrastructure.
If it's, you know, new sewer, force main, 100%.
Yeah.
But.
and then, of course, I mean, keep in mind, this is, you know, these are the financial policies and procedures, priorities and criterias that we put together from the DOR. But there are situations where a request may overrule or override those when we get to the sit down to do our recommendations, because some of these are just not gonna score high. I mean, this could come in at 25%,
But we might think
Yeah.
they're
but
vital.
yeah, and
Yeah.
that's, you know, why we have that ability to. We built that in and built that ability in.
And so was the staff vehicle, was he saying it was changing from an F-150 to a more traditional SUV? Is that part of his commentary? Not that it matters to the Rory, but
I think he was saying the pickup truck is not the right.
yeah,
equipment.
so it's staying the F-5429, which it currently is an F-150, but it
Yeah.
sounds like they're going to probably like an Expedition.
Yeah, sorry,
Something more
Peter,
like that.
I
Yeah.
double opened my rescue.
I am good. Got mine done.
Nice.
Anything? Oh, I'll wait till,
No, it's good.
well, we'll be out of forum. Thank you for bringing 3 computers.
I got here a half hour early. And I had no idea how to set this up. Yeah. Turned out I had no idea.
Yeah, you muddled through.
You
it
know
pretty
yourself
well.
well.
All right, so then. Just while we're finishing these,
And you save the rankings each time,
Yeah,
right?
don't forget.
Yeah, don't forget to save the rankings, guys, when you do it. Bottom line.
did we distribute a copy of the schedule?
It's in the meeting invitation.
Okay, I'm sorry, I don't, I typically go to the
Yeah,
website.
Yeah,
but-
we should talk about that. Like, how do you guys, because I don't know that, well, are we done with this? Can we move that?
Yeah, I think we,
I'm good.
yeah,
How do you guys, when I send out an Outlook meeting invitation for the meeting and then
Using as well, yeah.
well, so maybe maybe I need to do something additional. So I'm gonna probably always send out the meeting.
Like the thing you did today, just a reminder, it's at the.
Well, That's the note you want, but that then doesn't have the meeting materials
yeah.
in it.
No,
And like, I don't know what happens when you guys receive it at your personal email. Do you guys have a calendar that you keep, that you put it into the calendar or? So like, what improvements?
I typically don't. I typically know we're meeting on a Thursday, and for me, it's beneficial to get an email that has the agenda and any of the materials as the reminder. And it's not so much as a reminder, but then I just have it at the top of my email
Right.
list.
Instead of going through 3 or 4 to.
Right, and then it's, if we're gonna meet in person and I bring my laptop, I can just click on that email. From there, I can unfold out all the detailed information we need, whether it's, you know, the background information. I typically have a link to Plum. you don't need to deal with that, but I think if you send an email, if you send a meeting reminder with the attachments there versus in the calendar item, it might be cleaner.
Okay.
And it'll be less confusing if something gets canceled, because then you're wondering, was this the information for the cancel or,
And everybody's different calendar.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you know?
Okay.
Platforms.
Apple,
Yeah,
Google,
right, yeah, exactly.
Outlook.
So I'll send out the meeting invitation the way I currently do, because there's a lot, sometimes there's other people on it, like Chief
right.
or Terry
Yeah.
or others. So that needs to kind of go out the same way. And then what? At the same time, would you like me to send, because do you want the materials before the day of? So if I
First
send.
of all, you need someone who can do this for you. Second of all, if you send it out the night before, the day of, whatever's more convenient for you, that's close enough in my email line where I can jump down 10 or 15 emails and pull it up. Yeah,
So you don't need the information like the spreadsheet with the requests on it ahead of time? Other than the day of or the night before?
I think, oh, you mean the summary view?
Yeah,
I'd
so
like to
any
see that.
meeting
Yeah.
materials, so like the agenda goes on when I set up the meeting, right? And so that will be like tomorrow for next week, right? Because I'll send it to you this afternoon, you'll approve it, I'll post it and put it into the meeting invitation. Along with probably the little spreadsheet that has, you know, the out years. But that's in the meeting invitation. So then you want me to resend that stuff to you guys the day before?
I think so, and
Okay.
then that gives us
Or 2
also,
days before, or whatever.
Yeah.
Morning of, whatever.
and that also gives you an opportunity if something has changed to say,
That's what I was-
this has changed. But, and then somebody who's had an opportunity to, you know, we don't have a ton of requests, so I'm not pre-reviewing these.
Okay.
I've gone through the database system to take a look at the introduction.
Okay.
I'm not studying them because many of these are repeats.
Right.
You know, we're getting to the point, I'm taking a tangent, but we're getting to the point where I hope we will get to, where eventually a department head will be come in and say, this is an exception to what I've included in the SIP, the 10-year plan, which we
Okay.
discussed 5 times.
Right.
And if there's not an exception, then we don't need to be wasting their valuable time on other items. But yeah, if you send out a reminder, I think that'd be really helpful. So we're gonna hold off on approval of the schedule unless you guys, have you reviewed the schedule? I mean, basically, it hasn't changed materially other than to build in time for the ranking of relative importance reviews during the meeting. So we can take advantage of, one, having others around to share information, fill in our gaps. And other than that, it's pretty much unchanged except for days and dates.
It's every Thursday from now until December 15th,
Yeah.
except for Thanksgiving. And there's some flex dates in there that you can
Right.
manage, you know,
Right.
It's fine with me. It's in my schedule from 10 to probably 11:30.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Hope to make all.
can I get a motion to adopt and approve the FY 24 budgeting season calendar?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And carries unanimously. The other item is completion, just meeting structure, face-to-face, hybrid. What are thoughts on that now that you've mastered the digital sphere of
This thing's
that?
wild.
Pardon me?
This thing's wild.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, the owl.
Wow, that's still.
Yeah.
I think if we can pull off hybrid, it's great.
Yeah.
It's more flexibility. It allows somebody's traveling to still pop in, on the road. But if it's not,
I can try. I'll ask
Too big.
I'll just have to ask Erica, how many, you know, how often we can have a meeting.
if there's some in there where we can't, then that's.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah, I agree. I think this, you know, it's the
Yeah.
best of both worlds. I prefer that certainly when we meet with department heads. And I'd ask you guys to keep this in mind to try and attend.
Yeah.
But this is, you know, it's a little odd to have the way the owl shows the top view and then the participants are kind of small. Zoom is a little more beneficial when you're trying to facilitate that meeting is my point. Because you get a gallery view and you can see everybody and I don't know what that will look like. I think what I'll end up doing is I'll log into Zoom. And then I'll be able to see if there's somebody who's one of our members or someone else who's raising their hand or wants to talk. And I'll adapt to, you know, figuring out how to run the meeting a little bit more so. Terry hears us minutes, when there's more people involved in talking, we might have to go back to through the chair thing, but I kind of prefer not to do that. Those are just my comments on it. I'd support it. Let's do it.
Thought it went relatively smoothly. Granted, we didn't have any members on Zoom, but
Yeah.
good first round.
Sure, I really got to.
Yeah, no, thank you. So we're gonna do a too good of the order, nothing. Date of next meeting will be next Thursday, the 1st at 10 a.m. It will be a hybrid.
We'll try.
And without a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
What are we gonna cover next week with departments?
I don't remember. Sorry, I don't have the schedule open, but no
But
worries.
it will go out in the calendar announcement.
Yeah, the calendar's an email after that.
All in favor, adjournment?
Aye.
All right, carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, guys.
Really appreciate your
Thank you,
time.
Rick, do we need you to set up the
Sure.
visit?
So,
Now,
yeah,
comment.
so now that we didn't go this week, I will get at that again. Whoever
2
else.
o'clock today, 3 o'clock today? Get him on it?
Who on their side, is it gonna be?
Probably Diane.
Diane?
Okay.
Okay,
Maybe
oh,
that.
you don't have to look, don't worry.
No, I said, let me just end this meeting.
Oh,